Yeah, it's a lot different because most of the time at the tournaments, you just get in shape and show up and just kind of do your game. You're not really focusing so much on what the other person's good at. But for Submission Underground, each individual person, you train specifically for them and you train like a specific game plan for them.
Mhm. Has that been, I mean, I came across you because of SUG, and you've had like your name in the spotlight now pretty much for the last year and a half because of the big wins over Craig and Vinny being the legend that he is in the sport, and you really dominated that performance. I mean, has this been a big change for you, and has it changed how you've approached jujitsu and the path you want to take, or are you still kind of head down doing your thing and then just enjoying this while it lasts?
Yeah, it hasn't changed much. Everything's still the same, except I don't have to teach anymore. I can kind of just live off of the win money and the sponsorships. So um, that's good. I get a little bit more time to rest and relax. I'm not at the gym like teaching kids class every day.
Mhm.
So that's the only aspect of my life that it's changed. But the goals really are still the same. My number one goal for the past year, 2 years has been just to win ADCC. So that's still the big goal. Submission Underground is just giving me a chance to kind of have something to train for because ADCC is every 2 years, and a lot of most of the tournaments are all canceled. Um, I don't know when they're going to start doing tournaments in California again. So Submission Underground has been a great way to stay active because you always train a little bit harder when you're preparing for something, right? So it's given me the opportunity to stay active and keep competing. That way I'm not getting rusty. That way I'm not like being lazy. Um, not putting too much weight on, because I want to kind of keep my weight down so that I can move the same. And then also financially too, it's helped a lot financially. Submission Underground pays really, really well. So um, just being able to compete with them almost every month has really helped me out financially so
Mhm.
that I can be a little bit more comfortable.
No, I bet. Has it been, I know you're in California and the regulations are just absolutely over the top, but I mean, how much has that affected you, if any, in your ability to keep yourself kind of in tip top shape and training with a lot of different people?
Yeah, even at the start, I would say the start of the quarantine back in March, there's a little bit of hindrance on my training, just because I had went back home because our gym was closed. Um, so there wasn't really a reason for me to stay there in San Jose. My family and my girlfriend are back in Fresno. It's about 2.5 hours away. So I went back home for probably like the first 2 weeks of the shutdown, and I was training back home, but I wasn't definitely not training as hard. And then, I mean, that only lasted 2 weeks. After 2 weeks of that, I realized like, okay, I can't use this as an excuse to be lazy. So I ended up getting a group of pretty high level guys together to train with in San Jose.
Mhm.
And then I was just like driving back and forth. So I was doing like 3 or 4 days in San Jose and then going back doing like 3 or 4 days in Fresno. And I did that for 4 or 5 weeks and then eventually back to San Jose full time. Um, but it besides those first 2 weeks, I honestly feel like I'm even maybe getting better training because the real guys, like the real competitors, they're all finding a way to train anyways.
Mhm.
So all the best guys, we're still getting together and training hard. And if anything, it's like we have to make it count. And I don't know. I feel like we're all a lot more driven because it's like this could be taken from us at any time. We're kind of we're sneaking and uh doing it kind of low key. So we all were like putting a lot more effort in
Mhm.
to make sure that it was quality training.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. It's yeah, I think you when you appreciate things a little bit more, maybe you get a little bit more focused around stuff like that. So
Yeah, exactly. We like appreciate it a little more. And then, man, I just feel like everyone's been really motivated too. Even my other teammates that weren't competing that much during the quarantine. I mean, we're like a family, so if I'm competing, it's like we're all competing. So the guys are always there.
Looking into your background, you had some amateur fights. You fought twice as a pro, and then you transitioned and kind of started to really focus more on jiu-jitsu, which tends to be the opposite, right? You see guys who really get a big start in jiu-jitsu, build that base, head into the MMA game and try to utilize that skill. Do you, I guess, what was that change about? How has that benefited you? Do you feel like that's been a benefit? Like, as you've been able to have a singular focus outside of MMA, obviously the time for something like that is really important, but what was that change all about? Was it injury related or?
Yeah, I was having problems actually with concussions. I had a concussion that I didn't get knocked out. I didn't get dropped. It was just like after a normal training day, like a normal sparring day, I I like went home and I started seeing all these like flashes of lights. I had like a really bad migraine. And then after that, I couldn't train. I couldn't do anything for a long time, like 5 6 months. I wasn't, I mean, I couldn't even run. I couldn't like lift weight. I would get dizzy if I like tried to run or do anything. And that like really scared me because I had like quit my job and I didn't go to college. I had nothing to fall back on. Right. So I'm this like 22, 23-year-old kid with like no work experience, no skills. And I had put everything into MMA. And then during that time period, I was just thinking like, man, I'm kind of on the rise right now. And this is like all getting taken from me. What am I going to do if I can't ever train again? I always wanted to get my black belt, and always in my mind, I was thinking, because you can't fight forever, right? So I was always thinking, after I'm done fighting, I want to open up either like an MMA school or maybe just like a jiu-jitsu school. But you need to have your black belt, right? So that was like the biggest thing. I had so much anxiety. Like, what if I can't train anymore? What if I'm like this forever and I can't train anymore? How am I going to get a black belt, right? You have to train to get a black belt. And then I'm going to have nothing to, I'm going to have to go back to work, stocking sodas on the shelf at supermarkets. And I didn't want to go back to doing that. So I just kind of had to have that talk with myself. And it was really hard at the time, especially, anyone knows when you're on like a fight team, or even like if you're on like a jiu-jitsu team, when you tell all your like teammates that you aren't going to fight anymore, like all those guys, that's like your whole social circle, right? So everyone there was like my best friends, and I had to kind of walk away from that. And a couple months later, I started doing like jiu-jitsu tournaments. Once I could start training again, I finally like started to get better.
Found that
And then,
camaraderie again.
yeah, and then I kind of it wasn't like my plan. I wasn't thinking in my head like I'm gonna stop doing MMA and become like famous in jiu-jitsu or whatever, or be a world champ in jiu-jitsu. I just like had stopped fighting, and then I was like, oh well, I can still compete in jiu-jitsu. Like I'll try to do these tournaments. Like, oh, the Pans is coming up. Like I'll try to do that. Like whatever. And then it just ended up working out. I ended up winning a lot of tournaments, and eventually got to the point where I was invited to go to Kyle's gym and join like a real jiu-jitsu team. So it all worked out in the end, right?
Yeah, no, I was going to ask you about that. I mean, his style, how much has that style and that change accelerated your growth as a practitioner?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing really, when I got there, I started teaching the fundamentals. I would teach like one fundamentals class a week. And at Kyle's gym, the fundamentals isn't just like the teachers can show up and you just teach any like basic position you want. There's like there's a set curriculum. And then every day, like every class has a set subject on the curriculum that you have to teach that day, right? So on my day, I would have to like wake up early, go to like the online training, study the technique, write everything down, and then go to the gym and teach it. And that I think was like the single biggest thing that helped me, because Kyle's curriculum, his fundamentals curriculum, has so many concepts on like really small details of techniques, like really small things. Maybe it's like a certain frame or a certain way to move your body, right? A certain way to escape your hips. And so all those little concepts I learned from the fundamentals by teaching them. And then it made me really understand them. And then I was able to add all those concepts into all the areas of my game, right?
Mm-hmm.
So obviously all the one-on-one time I get with Kyle is amazing. And he shows me a lot of good stuff too. But I think that that was like the single best thing that's happened, because all those small concepts in the curriculum, I was forced to learn and ingrain into my technique. And I remember reading something that Bernardo Faria put out. I don't know if it was a book or something he put in a post, but he was talking about when he first changed to, I think he changed from BTT to Marcelo's gym, Alliance. And he was talking about the first, I think like 6 months that he was there, he went to all the fundamentals classes and he kind of like made himself relearn jujitsu. So yeah, I kind of applied the same concept. I think that was like the single best thing that helped me really. It's the fundamentals.
Do you have a grappling background, like in high school or anything like that?
I played rugby, which it's I mean, there's a little bit of grappling that goes on in rugby. So,
Yeah.
and then I used to, you know what, me and my friend, when I was in high school, like me and my friends would all like always be like going to parties and getting drunk and like wrestling each other. And there's like a video of me when I'm like, I think 16 or 17, like wrestling some college dudes at a party and like choking one of them with a guillotine. We had no training. So it wasn't like we were like dick jujitsu guys that were choking people, right?
Yeah.
We had zero training. We just like watched the UFCs and then we would learn like the technique from watching UFC.
There's nothing better. I think back to so many times in college where there'd just be a circle of people and two guys that thought they knew how to grapple. They saw like Matt Hughes on television and now they're like an expert in grappling. That's so fucking great.
Man, I wish I had all those matches recorded, because I probably did like 20 of these matches and I had some highlight reels. I was doing hip tosses and
it'd be like a
crazy
perfect
stuff.
promo video now.
Yes, it would be perfect.
Oh, that's awesome. So you're up in Northern California, born and raised, lived there your whole life?
Fresno. I was born and raised in Fresno.
Okay.
And then when I was looking at, so what happened, the team I was training at there, it was an MMA gym.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a really good Brazilian guy named Gabriel that came down, actually one of Bernardo Faria's early training partners.
Is this Thrive?
Thrive was the gym I first started at. I was there for 2 or 3 years. And then I had left that gym to go to another MMA gym, Josh Koscheck's gym.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So his gym is in Fresno as well. So I did my amateur fights with Thrive. And then before I went pro, I ended up leaving that team just to get better. I mean, you had like Koscheck was still fighting. Yeah. And then there was a bunch of other like pro guys that were pretty good.
Josh,
we had like maybe.
Oh, go ahead.
He's from like Pennsylvania, but yeah. He had his gym in Fresno. I think they had the falling out at AKA, right? He had a falling out there, and then he started like his own AKA in Fresno. Mm-hmm. And then it ended up, they changed the name to Dethrone.
Yeah, like he's from my neck of the woods here in PA, and then he
Pennsylvania.
Yeah, and he wrestled at Edinburgh. Yeah. He was like the big thing from where I grew up.
Yeah, and then he's a black belt in jiu-jitsu also. And then we had another guy, Chris Honeycutt, there. I don't know if you heard of him. He wrestled at Edinburgh. Yeah, we had him there. We had John Salter there. John Salter, he's fighting in Bellator right now. He's going to fight Musasi probably for the title next. Mm-hmm. Really good black belt. He won the ADCC trials too 1 year. So it was just better guys. So I had ended up going there, and then had the injury, and then at the same time I had the injury, they flew in this new like jiu-jitsu coach. So as I was transitioning, I got a lot of one-on-one time with this new coach. He was a referee under IBJJF. So he like became one of my best friends too. So like getting all the one-on-one time with him, I finally started to understand the rule. Because when you're an MMA fighter and you go compete at IBJJF, you don't understand any of the rules, the advantages, the points, anything. So started to get the rules down. Once I like learned the rules, I finally was able to be a little bit more strategic, and then had some success with him. And then he ended up taking off to go open his own gym in Florida. So then I was kind of stranded in Fresno, right?
Yeah.
So then Kyle's was, for me, was I needed to go to a big team, and that was like the closest to home because it's only 2.5 hours away. And then there's really good training there. Kyle's obviously a legend. So it just made sense. That was the obvious first choice for me.
Yeah, and I hear people, and early on, like when I first started really getting into grappling, if I was to watch a match and not understanding the rule sets, you want to see someone strangle someone out, or I'd be like, oh, this guy's stalling. But as you start to understand the rules and the strategy behind it, I think I really appreciate the way that you go about, really mapping out. It seems, at least from where I'm sitting, it looks like you've really mapped out how you're going to win. You set to a strategy and you really stick with that. And you leverage a lot of your strengths. You know how to get to those strengths. And then when the time is right, you seem to capitalize flawlessly.
Yeah, it would be like if you see, if you're watching a football game and one of the teams is up 14-0, I mean the casual person's gonna be screaming at the TV like, throw it, score again. But the football fans know, like, no, they're gonna run out the clock, they're gonna run out of bounds, they're gonna use their timeouts.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? It's strategy. It's like any sport, even MMA. The casuals, it's always like, he's just holding him. GSP is a good example. There's a lot of guys out there that, they fought smart, and they had long, successful careers.
I enjoy it a lot. And I think all the new formats and the way that these different promotions are providing a platform and generating a lot of excitement. I know I do a lot of stuff with Rumble Johnson as well. He's got a grappling match coming up. It's interesting. I mean, what are your thoughts? You hear all this stuff with Ben Askren and Jake Paul. I mean, would you ever do something like that? Go mix it up with a YouTuber?
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's probably, I've like all my friends, a lot of people always ask me if I'll fight again because now my grappling is really good. I have decent wrestling too, which most jiu-jitsu guys don't have very good wrestling, and that's why they don't have success in MMA. The successful guys in MMA you see are the jiu-jitsu guys that learn wrestling, because then they can put the guy down and then use their jiu-jitsu, right? So I have decent wrestling, and then obviously my jiu-jitsu is pretty good. But I really used to have like really, really good stand-up too. I used to train a lot of stand-up. Um, and it sucks because I do know, like, I really think deep down that I can be successful in the sport if I decided to transition back. But I don't think the juice is worth the squeeze. You know what I mean? I don't think fighting in the UFC, for me, like fighting in the UFC and getting all like the fame and the money isn't worth it if I'm a vegetable by the time I'm 40, right? So I want to live a long, healthy life, and as healthy as possible, and be happy. And brain injuries, man, it's not fun. It turns everything upside down.
Yeah, you don't get it back. You
Yeah, you
see
don't get it back.
people that take some risks, man, and it's like, oh, as a fan, I love watching a guy bite down on his mouth guard and just start swinging. But I've seen, especially now with the no crowd there too, it's just so much
Mhm.
more
So much
evident
more
when somebody
brutal.
gets. Oh yeah, there's been a couple of them where I'm like, I don't know if I can watch that again. That
Yeah,
was tough.
Ferguson, Gaethje, that
Yeah.
one was rough. But to answer your question, I would do like a one-off, right? Because risk versus reward,
Hmm.
probably not going to have long-term damage from one. Even if I did fight Jake Paul and get knocked out somehow, um, that one knockout probably wouldn't ruin the rest of my life, right? Most people would recover from that. But if it was a one-off type of thing where it was decent money and like a big name, obviously someone like Jake Paul or Logan Paul, they have a little bit of boxing training. I trained for 6 years, so I trained for 6 months, I think I'd get right back to where I was. So if
Yeah.
it was someone like that has a little bit of experience and a lot of fame, and it would bring in a lot of money, then I would take it in a heartbeat. But that's different than like trying to get into the UFC and just fighting these young killers. Like you're going to take some damage before you even get there. Then once you get there, every fight's going to be damaged. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I took a stab at it like 10 years ago. I had an amateur fight, and I fought a fight got changed with like 6 days left because the dude I was fighting failed his hepatitis test. And so
Oh,
I'm like,
horrible.
yeah, just typical trash, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I was so gung ho on making sure that I did it that I took the next guy in line. He was a wrestler and just totally out of my league. I went in there thinking I'm gonna like drop bombs on someone, and I got taken down and guillotined and ended up with a dislocated jaw. Very first time
Oh, man.
in front of friends and family. It was a very
Traumatic
humbling.
experience.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
man, it was humbling as all hell. But you
Yeah.
know,
That's the fight game, though. And you never know. Like that guy might have been out the whole time and they were like ready to throw this young guy to come smash you. And you're like the dumb young fighter that's like, okay, I'll do it.
yep.
It's just a fight game, man. It's a dirty game.
Yeah, no, it's hindsight, man, is so 2020. I've seen things and I'm just like, oh, if I would have only known. But yeah, you know, you live and you learn, and it was a fun experience in a way. It made me realize that I needed to train jujitsu.
For sure. Yeah, for sure.
So, man, what's I know ADCCs are coming up. You've got this big match against an Olympic gold medalist in SUG. I mean, what else is on the radar outside of all of that for you?
Um, it really depends what the world starts looking like when things start opening up. Usually January is the IBJJF Europeans in the gi.
Mm-hmm.
But who knows if I mean I know the restrictions right now in Europe are pretty bad too. So
Yeah.
we kind of just have to wait and see. I mean, SUG is happening consistently. It's one of the only things that's going on consistently right now. The money's good, it's good exposure. So I'm gonna just try to keep riding that wave as long as I can. Anything could happen, especially with the rule set, you know, with guys starting on the arm and the back. You never know. Like really anyone can win. So I'm just gonna keep grinding and try to make sure I don't lose that title because there's big money that comes with that title. And just keep riding that wave. That's the plan for now. Keep riding the SUG wave, and then whenever the ADCC comes back, start training for that.
Yeah. Still have dreams of a school someday?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's the other thing with Submission Underground is now I've been able to put away enough money where I'll be able to open like a really sick academy. I have a decent amount saved up, and that I'm not going to touch that, and I'm just going to keep kind of adding to that over time. And that's just like my gym money, so that when the day comes that I decide that it's time to start focusing more on making money and not on competing, I have everything ready. I'm not going to have to take out a loan, and then I'll be able to start my own business and then kind of transition on to the next stage of being, you know, a business owner and not a full-time athlete. So definitely a couple more years. I really want to win ADCC. I think I have a shot to do it. So that's the goal, is to win ADCC, and then after that, maybe start focusing on making money and setting up my future.
Yeah. Who's the big competition?
So like Craig is the guy that I lost to.
Okay.
And that match, there was a moment where I scored 2 points on him. It's 0-0. It's really hard to score in ADCC. So most of the matches either end in submission or 0-0. It's rare that you see points. So I scored 2 on him, which is extremely hard to do. And there was like maybe 2 or 3 minutes left. But they didn't give me the 2 points for whatever reason. I didn't get the points. And then like the last 30 seconds maybe of the match, I shot in and he choked me, right? And he was the number 1 seed in the bracket, and he ended up taking second. So I had a really good showing, and he's came out. He's he's really a good dude. He came out and talked about it and said, like, yeah, he definitely should have got 2 points. The match might have ended differently if he got the points, right? So I don't want to like sit and complain about it. It already happened. It's the past now. But
yep.
he's he's one of the top guys, and I had a really good performance against him in the last ADCC. And then the guy that won the bracket is Mateus Denise. He beat Craig in the final. So those are the two guys, really. Those are probably the two toughest guys that are going to be in the bracket next year. It's probably Craig and Mateus.
Do you think that you have a psychological advantage if you were to go up against Craig again, just for the fact that the last two times, or does that not, because it's different rule sets, different setup, that it plays different, doesn't really impact that at all? Or
I don't know. Everyone's different. Some guys, yeah. Some guys no. You can also say that because I was like whatever, like the number 13 seed in the bracket last time, right? You can also say maybe he was taking me lightly and I caught him by surprise. So I had the element of surprise on my hands before. And now this time he knows that I'm game and he knows that I'm like a tough dude and he's going to come in like laser sharp focused. You could like think of it that way too. Or you could think of it as like I got the wins on him over SUG and I have a mental advantage. That might be the case too. Only he knows. Or maybe he doesn't know. Maybe it's deep down and, we'll find out the day of the tournament. But I'm definitely not going to count on that. I'm going to come in the same as I did the first time. I know he's dangerous. So we'll see. I don't know. Our match at ADCC was like one of the most exciting matches, I think. It was like fireworks.
I feel like I watched it a while ago, but now I want to go back because I don't remember it the way you just explained it, and I don't think that you're wrong in what you said. So I'm like, I'm trying to like think.
Yeah,
back
go rewatch it. Yeah, there's a sequence when I like clearly we had a crazy scramble. I came up on top and didn't get the points. It is what it is, The head organizer of ADCC messaged me and told me that it was clearly 2 points. He doesn't know what happened.
I remember reading some stuff that Craig had put that you had mentioned too, how he had said like, yeah, he definitely should have gotten those. I remember reading that. I just trying to think back. I don't know if I ever even saw that match.
Yeah, you can rewatch it with no bias and you should see the 2 points. Yeah. I try to take myself out of it and it's like a clear 2 points. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. I'm not mad about it anymore. You could say the same. My first SUG match with him, the ref stopped it, and a lot of people thought it shouldn't have been stopped. So it goes both ways. Like sometimes it goes your way, sometimes it doesn't. So you have to just get back to the gym, get back to training, and get ready for the next one. You can't sit and think too much about those ones.
I guess it's probably sweet though to go and win the second time decisively in a similar fashion. So it's cool.
Yeah, definitely.
But I do appreciate you hopping on and all the support for Action as well too. 2020 has been kind of a screwy year. We wanted to have a lot more things going on. We've been just trying to like keep ourselves alive until we can get back to how we wanted to do things. But any way that we can continue to support you, we certainly want to. And looking forward to watching you continue your journey, and good luck, man, and everything that you're doing.
Yeah, and I appreciate too having the ability to represent the brand too. It means a lot to me. So for that, and it's going to be cool because I'm on the same card too that Rumble's on. So you're going to have both of us. Yeah, you're going to have both of us on the same card. So it'd be like a cool little marketing for Action as well.
He's a good dude. I don't know if you ever met him before.
I haven't met him, no, but I'm sure. That's the cool thing too. I'll get to meet all these guys. Like Cowboy's going to be on there, and Rumble Johnson, Fabricio Verdum, and a lot of cool guys are going to be on the card. So,
what's Cowboy doing on that card?
Yeah, Cowboys has a match with Rafael dos Anjos.
No shit.
Yeah, then Rumble has a match with Fabricio Verdum.
Yeah, I saw that. I didn't realize that Cowboy was on there.
Yeah, so
awesome.
It's crazy.
Yeah, no, definitely. Rumble's a good guy. You'll have fun with him for sure. But thank you again. I appreciate it, and good luck, man.
Thank you, man. Thanks for having me.
No problem.